Nous avons accordé suspendre l'aide budgétaire et aussi l'aide, la coopération qui ne touche pas directement la population.
It's very interesting that the EU are shifting ground. They now understand whether they understood before they wanted to just sanction Niger. Blanket sanctions do not work, especially in this situation. When you say you want to help someone, that you want to bring humanitarian aid to a country, and all of a sudden their government changes, and you say you're withdrawing everything, that means it wasn't about the poor people in the first place, because their situation didn't change because of the change of government. So the EU Vice President on Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Mr. Joseph Fontels, saying that they will now continue humanitarian aid in Niger instead of withdrawing everything is a welcome development. They will now push for targeted sanctions as recommended by Germany. These sanctions will target the main actors in the military coup in Niger. Yes, they call it aid, but it looks like money given under certain conditions. It's like money that is used to buy an interest. And if those conditions and interests no longer exist, they withdraw that money. The worst part is that the EU and other foreign donor agencies have a different standard for Africa, because there are countries where they operate in where the situation is worse than what is found in Niger today. No need mentioning these countries, but some of them are under dictatorships. But the donor agencies do not in any way interfere in their political future or try to force them to operate a particular type of government. So it looks somehow that they want to hold Africa to a certain standard, whereas other countries are not even giving any standard at all. They just go there based on charity to help poor people. Why is it not the same in Africa or Niger in this case? Blanket sanctions can be counterproductive. They always make the people rally behind their leader, whoever the leader is, whether he came to power through the back door or whatever. It brings out true patriotism in citizens because they will feel like people are just attacking them for nothing, that they did nothing wrong. Many of the citizens do not understand international politics. Some are not even educated. They do not understand what their country did or their leader to come under massive sanctions. So most of the time, the leaders use the sanctions as an excuse to cover their failures and rally the citizens to be patriotic and defend their country. Look at what is happening in Russia. Despite all the sanctions on them, they still found a way to keep moving. And it proves that it's not effective. They are making a point saying, hey, no matter how you sanction us, we will keep going. We will never bow, you know. So whatever humanitarian aid the EU is bringing to Niger, Nigerians are saying today they don't want it anymore. Please keep your aid. We are mature to deal with our problems. We can solve our problems by ourselves. Let's listen to this lady.
On est là déterminé, on ne bougera pas sans qu'ils ne quittent ce pays-là. Ils ont dit qu'ils veulent nous aider. Nous, on dit qu'on n'a plus besoin de leur aide. Donc, ils n'ont qu'à comprendre si réellement c'est de l'aide. La personne aidée dit qu'elle ne veut plus de ton aide. Mais tu plies bagage, tu t'en vas, c'est pas obligé. L'aide, si c'est réellement une aide, elle n'est pas obligatoire. Elle est négociée. Donc, on n'en veut plus. Ils n'ont qu'à partir, nous laisser notre pays. On sait se gérer. On est assez mature pour se gérer.
Yes, that's the sentiments in Niger. They feel that people are exploiting them in the guise of humanitarian aid. So they are now telling all donor agencies openly, please keep your money. Let us solve our problems ourselves. That's why they are protesting at the French military base, in front of their embassy, everywhere. In fact, they held an all-night protest in front of the military base, telling them to pack their things and leave their country. Maybe it's because of the standard that they hold Niger or Africans at large. They overreacted to the military coup in Niger. Granted that many felt that the Nigerian military didn't have enough reason to remove Bazoum from power. But what has happened has happened. They are even playing the politics better than many people, including Bazoum himself. Look at all the people they are mobilizing. Where are supporters of Bazoum? Why are they not protesting for his release? Let them come out and protest. That would be a good test for the military regime to know if they will disperse them forcefully or allow them to protest freely like it's supposed to be in a democracy, though they are not in a democracy. Surprisingly, when you look at the EU's response to the coup in Gabon, despite condemning the coup, they still accepted that it was sort of legitimate. The vice president said that there were legitimate concerns about the election, that the coup happened after an election that was full of irregularities. So these are part of the many climb downs that are expected as people are now faced with the reality that Bazoum may never be reinstated. The ship has sailed, and ECOWAS can't do much for anyone in the face of the heavy opposition to the use of military force. Even the African Union is not in support of any invasion of Niger. So no backing. ECOWAS can't help the EU or France. Maybe that's why France is being defiant. They don't want to evacuate their embassy. They are looking for a way out, an excuse to start any sort of military intervention in Niger. Because the protest is very clear. They have been telling them at their military base, leave us alone, leave Niger, go back to your country. How else can they pass the message? At what level will the disgrace be too much for France to take so that they will shamefully go back to their country? Because it's become very obvious that they are now looking for trouble. It has reached a stage that France can be accused of invading Niger. Imagine the military are now quoting articles of Vienna Convention, that they followed Article 9 of Vienna Convention on diplomatic relations, that they followed all the due process to strip their ambassador of diplomatic rights and annul his visa. That's why the police are now searching all vehicles leaving the French embassy in Niger. In spite of all this, Macron insists that they will not evacuate the embassy, that the ambassador will not leave. Macron is also aware that ECOWAS can no longer help him to invade Niger. Maybe that's why they are trying to provoke the Nigerian military by refusing to evacuate the embassy. Yes, it's very clear they are looking for an excuse to start up something. Look at here where people rush the entrance. Anything might happen. This might escalate very quickly. Why not just evacuate the country? Pack all your equipment, leave the military base and the embassy. The worst part is that Macron is doing all this as if it's the popular opinion in France. He's not even popular at home. Look at people calling for his resignation. Macron, démission! Macron, démission! Macron, démission! This one was a few months ago in another city in France. Macron, démission! Macron, démission! The problem with Western countries is their mentality and approach to many issues, especially when they are dealing with Africa. It's like they always try to tell it to your face that they have the upper hand in any negotiation. It's like saying, hey, do this and take this money. Do this might mean operate this money policy and take this money as aid. Or make sure you follow this political position or type of government, then get this as aid, get so billions as aid. Even some of their so-called bilateral agreements that are supposed to serve the interests of two countries on equal basis, most of them still find ways not to obey them in order to cheat you. Cheat in the sense that they prefer their countries gaining the upper hand in the agreement, while your own country, the African country, will not gain as equal as they do. For instance, look at the bilateral air agreement Nigeria has with the United Kingdom. Two of their airlines fly to Nigeria. You have British Airways and Virgin. None flies from Nigeria to the United Kingdom. Now there's a Nigerian airline, Apeace, that wants to start taking advantage of the bilateral agreement. They want to start flying from Nigeria to the United Kingdom. They bought new jets, but the UK authorities are giving excuses to prevent them from flying. In other words, they want to stifle competition. Why sign the bilateral agreement in the first place? This bilateral agreement was signed many years ago, up to 20-something years ago. Their airline companies have been benefiting from this agreement all along. Now that a Nigerian company wants to start servicing the routes based on the agreement, they are looking for excuses. So this is a problem. When the West negotiates with you, they always feel they have the high ground. And the worst part is that they try to get righteous on you as if they have the high moral standard. But the reverse is the case. This is why many countries are looking east. It's not as if China is a saint, but at least they come for business. They give you your respect. Look at the Chinese ambassador meeting with the Minister of Defense in Niger. A Western ambassador will never do this because they feel they have the power of sanctions, that if they disagree with you, they can sanction you. But that's not the case with China. They never intervene in politics. They allow you to do what is best for you. Why is a country sovereign if another person or an outsider will decide what will happen in a sovereign country? Where is the sovereignty? Yes, it's understandable that people are a bit confused about the reason for the coup in Niger, because the election that brought Bazoum to power was fair compared to the one of February 25th in Nigeria. Unlike in Guinea, where it was a bit justified because Alpha Condé rigged the referendum results for his third term in office, in Mali it was also a bit justified because the former president Keita rigged the elections and the police were heavy-handed in handling protesters that came out as a result of that, which led to many casualties, not to talk of the serious insecurities in the northern region and other parts of the country. So many of the military coups were as a result of failure of democracy and, of course, resentment for France. These are understandable, but it still doesn't excuse the fact that they mishandled the matter when it happened. That's why ECOWAS should spend more time and energy on these issues. They should make sure all member states observe the rule of law and uphold democratic ideals. Even if there's a constitutional amendment in any country, the incumbent president must never benefit from the tenure extension. They should try and put all this in check to reduce the incidence of coup in West Africa. Thanks for watching.